Sometimes our parents migrate to offer us a better life, and it turns out to be your worst nightmare. This is a real life story of a blended family. A man, Marvin, who remarried but had a son from a previous relationship, Jason, who is 13 years old, right? Marvin married a woman, Catherine. Catherine had a son, Corey, who is 10, and a daughter, Sarah, who is 15 years old from a previous relationship. Before all of this, Marvin and Jason lived in Jamaica, and then Marvin, the dad, moved away to America to live with Catherine, right? Marvin has been living in America for about 2 years before filing for Jason. And Catherine will talk to Jason, when his dad called and check on him back home in Jamaica. But Marvin and Jason will talk like every day, and they had a really, really good relationship, a very good bond, before even Marvin migrated.
Hi, Jason, sweetheart. Your dad's just getting home from work. How was school?
It was good. I got top marks in math again.
That's nice. You always were the smart one.
My boy, you taking care of your grandmother? I knew you would. Give her my love.
Yes, Dad. When am I coming to America?
Soon, son. I'm working hard so you can have everything I never had.
Marvin and Jason were very, very close because when Marvin was a baby, his mother passed away from an illness. He was about 3 years old or so, right? Now, fast forward. Now, life seems to be going well for his dad, and in return, going well for Jason too, right? Because Jason was getting the financial support from the dad, because moving away, making a better life, having a better job, and so on. So he was able to send money back home to help support Jason in Jamaica. And Jason in Jamaica was living with his aunt and his grandmother, right? Now, after finishing primary school, Jason migrated to live with his new family, so that is his dad and Catherine, here in America. Everybody was excited for Jason to join them, right? And it was just new and exciting for Jason because he has never traveled before, much less to such a big country where there's so many new things and new culture, all of those things for Jason. So it was really exciting for him, right?
You're taller than me now. I told you.
Oh. Welcome home, sweetie.
After a few months, Catherine started to treat Jason poorly, really bad, right? She would do things like giving him the portion of the meals that nobody really liked, or she would give him an unfair amount. For example, if she was making breakfast, Jason said that she would give him like 1 slice of toast and some eggs, while her kids, Corey and Sarah, would get like waffles and bacon and fruits and orange juice and stuff like that, right? But Jason said, you know what? He won't let it bother him. He will just make the best of the situation, right? Now, after a few months, Catherine started to treat Jason even worse because she would let him do the worst of the household chores that nobody else wanted to do. And he was just treated like crap overall.
Take out the trash when done sweeping the floors.
Yes, ma'am.
Jason, scrub the bathroom and make sure to wipe the mirror.
Yes, ma'am.
Jason, when you are done, clean the yard before your dad gets home.
Why don't Corey and Sarah have to do these?
Because they've been here longer. You need to learn how things work in this house.
But the father, Marvin, he didn't really suspect anything because he really worked long hours and he would just come home in the evenings and Jason will try to hang out with him at that time before, he had to go to bed or do homework and stuff like that for school. So one day, Jason finally found the courage to tell his dad about, how he was feeling and the poor treatment that Catherine was giving to him and so on. But his dad kind of, just chalked it up to Jason adjusting to this new life because he did not know Catherine like that, right? Because if you remember, Catherine used to talk to Jason over the phone and she was nice and all of those things. And what Jason was saying is that while his dad was there in America before he came, Catherine was always nice to him and respectable and so on. So he says.
Dad, I don't think Catherine likes me.
Son, you're just adjusting. It's a new environment. Give it time.
I was happy, but things have changed.
So when Jason just arrived to the States, his step-siblings, Sarah and Corey, were always cordial to Jason, right? But however, they didn't really invite him to like places with them or to meet any of their other family members or just to hang out at all, right? They saw Jason as like just another person living in the house as opposed to a sibling, right? Where they tried to connect with him and develop that bond or even get to know him, right? As time goes by, they began to move some type of way towards Jason, right? Nothing good. They had no real emotional connection at all to Jason, and nor did Jason to them. Jason said that he tried to bond with them when he just arrived, but that didn't really work out too well for him because they were just so different. And I guess the culture clash also played a role with this strained relationship. So, for example, Jason was always showing manners, to everyone, saying good morning, good evening, because of just how he was raised, his Jamaican culture, while his siblings were just individualistic in a way, right? Us all for themselves. They would just get up in the morning, just get whatever they wanted, disregarded their mom. Sometimes they were disrespectful to their mom, and then Marvin at times might have to address them about their behavior towards Catherine, and that really only made the matters worse because, remember, Marvin was Jason's dad and not their dad, right? So it was not a good situation for them, and because of that, they showed Jason a lot of bad face, right? Because Marvin was just not their real dad, okay? However, they never really disrespected Marvin at all. Jason said that he doesn't really know the background about their father, though. Only bits and pieces of what he overheard in the house, like when Catherine is talking to him over the phone. At one point, he said Catherine was talking to the kid's dad over the phone and saying that, oh, he's a deadbeat father, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't want to see his kids. So more or less, they're not on good co-parenting terms, right? And then the last thing he said he overheard was that he was in another state, not sure which, but he was living in another state than they were. And, him and Catherine would always be cursing on the phone and all of those things, What a mix-up. Anyways, Jason continued to struggle in the home, living with Catherine and her kids. Jason found comfort, though, in, talking to his aunt over the phone back home or his grandma, where they always supported him and encouraged him to stay strong,
I am not happy here, grandmother. Don't let anybody make you feel small, baby. Things will get better. Just keep your head up.
When his dad was on his days off, Marvin will try to hang out with Jason and try to bond and do some of the activities that he was used to doing back home with his dad. However, Catherine will always find some task for Marvin to do or ask him to attend some activity for her kids, totally disregarding Jason's needs. So Catherine will always do things like, Corey's soccer game or something for Sarah for school or some family event. But when Marvin tells Jason to come along, to the baseball game or the soccer game or whatever the case is for her kids, Catherine will always jump in and say that, oh, he has a bunch of homework or, something to just change Marvin's mind from inviting Jason. Now, Jason, who, obviously was feeling unwanted or just feeling like a burden in Catherine's life, and that his dad has, his little perfect family and he'll probably be better off without him, So what Jason started to do was to just focus wholeheartedly on his schooling now, just avoiding all the interaction, just Catherine and her kids, and just staying out of the way pretty much, right? So that she can have her happy little family. Jason was a smart boy though. He was always a smart boy, always got good grades, thorough loving, helpful, jovial type of kid, right? So he would always win like academic awards, certificates for stuff, while Sarah, she kind of struggled a little bit in school, you know. But this would just make Catherine even more upset, and she would just blame Marvin for not paying more attention to her kids or helping Corey with their schoolwork, so that they can be just as good as Jason, right? But all the achievements that Jason got, Catherine just downplayed it to make him feel undeserving in a way, or as if it was insignificant or his accomplishment was not a big deal, So the kids already did not see Jason as a brother, and now it's even worse because he's now unintentionally showing up their flaws.
Hey, Sarah.
Hey. So, as I was saying, the project is due Friday.
Now, Corey and Sarah begin to look at Jason as a benchmark, more or less. So, like a measuring stick or something that they need to live up to. So, for example, Jason said that, Catherine kind of quietly started to resent him. And as a result, too, the kids were just openly mean. So at first they used to be mean or they'll, show him bad vibes, but now they're just openly mean. And he just keep his distance away from him, and away from Sarah too, right? And even at school, he'll just walk alone, just do his own little thing, stay in his room, play his video games if he has the time, stuff like that. Didn't really have a lot of conversations with them. So conversations were short. When they'll be downstairs and joking and having their fun, it never really included him. So he just stayed to himself, right? And, he was starting to feel it. He was starting to feel the isolation and really feeling like he's not a part of that family, right? So obviously he just stopped trying. He doesn't really sit near them. He stopped trying to be a part of the conversations. He just, stopped asking to hang out. And he just learned that the safest thing to do was to just exist quietly, out of everybody's way. When a parent constantly compares children, it does so much more than create competition. It builds hierarchy. And in that hierarchy, Jason was positioned as both the example and the outsider. Corey and Sarah, they absorbed their mother's tone. Not necessarily hatred, but a quiet belief that Jason was different. So not fully one of them, and maybe less important than they were. Right? Sometimes exclusion isn't loud. Sometimes it's not bullying or insults. Sometimes it's simply the absence of belonging. And for a teenager already adjusting to a new country, a new home, a new life, that absence can feel louder than words. This continued for years until Jason was 16. At this point, the relationship between him and his dad was not really what it was. They would get into disagreements a lot, and mostly because Jason wants to keep his distance from the family. So not anything bad that Jason was doing or getting into trouble or anything like that. At this point, Sarah had moved out to go to college, and only him and Corey were the only children in the house. Marvin decided to get a car for the boys. But Catherine mostly controlled the keys and have only her son, Corey, drive the car. Jason only got to drive the car when, obviously, his dad was around. That was it. Even then, she would complain to Marvin that Jason always finishes the gas, or that something was wrong with the car after Jason got done driving it. Keep in mind, that Corey mostly drove the car because Catherine always had the keys. Because of the negativity around the car, Jason started working a part-time job and then he began saving his money to buy his own car. His dad was very supportive of this and he helped Jason to open an account to help him save to buy the new car that he wanted. His dad will contribute about $200 per month to the car account until Catherine found out. After finding out about the account, right, and that Marvin was helping Jason to save this money, she frequently picks arguments about money or needing money for something. For example, she needs money to fix something in the house, or she needs to purchase something that the house needs, or she needs to send money to Sarah in college, or just anything that has to do with finances at this point, right? So as to prevent Marvin from contributing to the car account. Catherine was such a bitter, bad mind woman. She frequently reminds Jason that it is her why he is able to be here in America, right? As well as it is her why his dad was able to be here in America as well. He should be grateful that he got the help and that he is not back home suffering and struggling to find food every day. Now, don't get me wrong, Jason acknowledges that his dad's decision to migrate was to get a better life for him and that he is forever grateful for the opportunity to have access to all the resources and opportunities available to him here in America, right? However, Jason also recognizes that if you are helping someone, you should do it with a willing heart and not take every opportunity to bring it up and remind a person as if you are throwing it into someone's face. Now, Jason also knows that his father is a very hardworking man, and even if he did not get the opportunity to be here in America, he would always be a strong provider and supporter for him, even if he was back home in Jamaica. Let's fast forward to present day. Jason is now an adult and have been doing well for himself. His father is still a big part of his life and he is able to express himself a lot better now, right, about the past experiences with Catherine and the kids. Because of this, Marvin and Catherine have not been on good speaking terms. Since Jason moved out of the house, Marvin has also noticed for himself that every time he talks about his son or express wanting to visit him, Catherine dismisses it, or she doesn't want him to go and visit him or makes up some excuse, right? However, she's always forcing him to go out of state to visit Sarah, because remember, Sarah is at college. Marvin is now filing for separation mid-year after reflecting on the entire teenage years of his son. He could not believe, really, that Jason really had it hard and that he went through so much while in the house and he was so unaware of what was going on and to the extent that it affected Jason. Better late than never, I guess. He ever said could not believe that it was that bad and that he was not there enough for his son when he needed him. So he really internalized that, right? Marvin expressed that Catherine was a good woman when they met, or at least he thought she was a good woman, a good family-oriented woman, right? But then again, you never know a person until you're in a certain situation with them. So let's just chalk it up to that. Now, he did not know how resentful Catherine was of his son, and had he known, he would have put a stop to it earlier and be more supportive of Jason while he was there living in the house. Sometimes in life, people show the face and side of them that they want you to believe, all while hiding their true intentions of who they really are. Don't feel guilty if this happened to you, because these people are master manipulators and some are real narcissists. This can happen to anyone. This can happen to a partner, friends, and their own family members. They present as the most helpful and loving people until you live with them in real life. Once this happens, these people can be worse than a plague in your life, making life a living hell. These experiences can cause significant past traumas for children growing up, and these experiences influence how they navigate life and interact with people moving forward. So sometimes when you do see people react to certain situations or behave in certain ways, let us just take a step back instead of judging them and saying, what is wrong with this person, right? But to step back and think what happened to this individual, why they reacted in such a way, right? Some people may use these experiences as life lessons and take it as a motivator to be kind and never be that person in life where others were treated like that, right? They never want to be that person. On the other hand, some people may have issues with trust, right? Or being vulnerable. And then this in return negatively impacts their relationships, whether it's personal or otherwise. It negatively impacts their self-esteem, and it may even cause them to develop emotional and mental health issues. In Jason's situation, things could have been so much worse, right? Things could have been so much worse for him, but thankfully, he was able to persevere and develop the resilience needed to get through that situation. And, I really hope Catherine can change her bad ways, if not for herself, for her children. See you next time with another story. If you have an experience you want to share, feel free to reach out to me via the contact information in my profile or drop a comment if you prefer. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this with intelligent people like yourself. Catch you in the next one.